everything sucks. Two men have the balls to laugh at it. This is The System is Down.
There's no news. There's absolutely none. Charlie Kirk is still dead and people are arguing about it. So we're going to talk about other things, like religion and stuff. Let's go.
You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a pre-recorded episode, assuming that this works, pre-recorded episode of The System is Down. It's been a while, but the live stream is not working, unfortunately. But today's malfunctioning episode is brought to you by you guys in the Downers Club. People like Aaron, Michael, James, William, Sir Turd, Nathan, Keenover, Gilda, Kate, John Winshower, Bob Seifert, Drugs Robots, Autumn Pangea, Sean, Zachary, Trashman, Maxwell, Kimberly, Steve, Noah, Justico, Silas, Denise, Perry, Donald, Matt, Osmatash, Sean-Luc Picard, Stoney, Level Zero, Stephen Hartman, Craig DaCosta, Tim Brown, Howie Snowden, Nathan, Justin, John, and many more. If you want to get your name on that list and have it read incorrectly someday, go on over to patreon.com/thesystemsdown, where we'll get more weird, where you will get more weird, more raw, more offensive, more weekly, generally, mostly, often weekly content. I don't know. We might do an after party today. It all feels like after party since nobody's watching us currently, but we're still going to have some fun with this conversation, even though we are not doing it the way the good Lord intended on the live stream. But, and, you know, camera's already fucking up. It's a good day. Great day to be alive, in fact. And, you know, I can't do the show alone, or at least I hate to, so I like to have somebody come along with me, and it's usually Dave. It's usually Dave talking about the news during the end of the world, but instead, today, I want to talk about something else, because as I said in the intro, there's not a lot of news. The news hasn't really changed in the last week. Charlie Kirk is still dead. People are still arguing about it. That's about it. The Earth continues to be flat, and the moon landing is still fake, and who gives a shit? So we move on with our life, and I have been wanting to have this conversation for a while because I think, well, Buck's a friend of the show, a fellow dissident. He has, I think, similarities in his background, or at least circles of our histories that probably have overlapped or intertwined in some ways. And yeah, I wanted to talk about this orthodoxy thing that he's been talking about a lot on his show. So my guest today is the one, the only, Mr. I think this is the right button, Buck Johnson of Counterflow. Buck, how are you doing, sir? It's long overdue having you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. When you want to talk about this, the demon's attack that's not letting you do a live stream, you'd be surprised how many that's happened. I spoke with Cyprian recently about AI, and boy, it was a pain in the ass it kept dropping out, and it's like, well, I wonder why.
Yep, I don't know. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I think it's all controlled anyway. And every time it is true that my internet cable sucks and I live in the middle of a cornfield, but I choose to believe that it's like, you know, some sort of Illuminati or something that's trying to shut down the conversation that we're having here today. But, Buck, as I said, I think you and I probably have a lot of similarities in our background, probably different upbringings, but different areas like in music and politics and things that overlap, and questionings of faith perhaps, and conclusions or drawing conclusions from different art forms and things like that. So I think we have a lot to talk about here. And like I said, I want to do this for quite some time because I've been doing some work on your show. I worked on your intro and pull some of your clips and stuff like that. So I've gotten nuggets of your truths and everything and the guests that you're having on, and it was fascinating to me. Honestly, I didn't know anything about Orthodox Christianity until your show. My dad was a pastor growing up. I've never heard of this Orthodox Christianity thing. And I've had my ups and downs with all different types of faith. So yeah, it's piqued my interest, your thing. And then after you talked about it, or I started hearing you talk about it, I started seeing it everywhere, and everybody's talking about it. So part of me, in my skeptical, not cynical brain, it's like, is this a trend? Is this organic? Or where does this come from? Why is this so popular right now? And honestly, if it can be both to me, a trend and organic, because of the times that we're living in, it wouldn't surprise me if young men are just latching on to this for the structure of it. But lots to get into. Why don't you give a bit of your history and what where you started and what kind of brought you to this, what changed your mind personally, and then we'll move on and get into a little bit of what exactly it is.
Okay. So my dad was not a pastor. In fact, my parents were divorced. I had a stepfather, and I was raised sort of the Sunday school. You go into a separate room when you're a kid. The parents go to church. Mm-hmm. And then in high school years, I went to a church in San Antonio called Cornerstone, non-denominational Zionistic church. It was called Christian Church, but Pastor John Hagee, who is the pastor there, is probably the biggest Zionist mouthpiece in America that's not a politician. Mm-hmm. And so I honestly, I was into punk rock and all of his stuff, but on Sundays we'd go to that, and as a teenager, I kind of liked it. I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the ins and outs of Israel and the things that he was sort of preaching, but he yelled a lot. He was literally a Bible thumper. Like, he would hold it and hit it. And I'm listening to the music where they yell, and I thought, this guy's kind of crazy and cool. And so I sort of liked that.
He's into it. He's sold into it, at least, He's
yeah.
all about it.
And it's funny looking back now, like, it was a big stage because it was a mega church, and he had Israeli flags. I mean, if I saw a church now with American flags, I would be like, something's off here.
Sure.
We're not having, state idols in our church.
Right.
But nonetheless, and so I became an atheist as I moved to Austin, Texas. I was
full-blown or agnostic?
Full-blown for a while. Embarrassingly, I was actually reading Hitchens' The God Delusion book, and because the libertarianism aspect of like reason and logic, I just started sort of well, then how does God exist? And trying to find the reason and logic with all of that stuff. And then I drifted, I like started out right and then sort of drifted sort of libertarian. I was young in my 20s, partying a lot. So sort of goes libertarian guy. And then I drifted back rightward as I became friends with Jeff Deist and the Mises Institute, and had multiple visits with Lou Rockwell. And so I started sort of swimming in those circles. And funny enough, Jeff Deist is not the most religious guy, but he told me privately once, he said, maybe go a little easier. Like, we were talking private, and I never really talked to my podcast when it was Death to Tyrants, but he said, maybe think about going a bit easier on your thoughts on Christians. He's like, who would you rather live around? Christians that are maybe Republican, or Reason Magazine atheist libertarians?
Sure.
And I was like, wow, that's a good point. So I started softening my view, and then it's like, well, logically, if I'm this guy going, if you believe in God, that's silly. And how could I then go, I know there's not one, and that not, like, you don't know that. And so I thought, okay, I'm agnostic. I'm agnostic on the issue, and it doesn't matter too much. Christians can be Christians. I don't have to do that. And I had a very deep angst about the Zionist megachurch stuff that I grew up in. And then seeing the music, and my friends would go to these sort of, I call them boomer churches. And just I'm a musician. I'd see the bands, and I'm like, that is not it. If I start to walk towards Christ, it's not that.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I'm talking
in a lot
to
of those bands. Yeah.
No offense.
It's all good. There were some bad ones.
Yeah, it reminds me. There's a great line on King of the Hill that stuck with me because it was so, and it's exactly how I felt.
Wait. You're not making Christianity better, you're making rock and roll worse, right?
That's it.
It stuck with me too.
Bobby, yes. And I was like, yes, that's exactly. And I just would make fun of it. Even the term fellowship sounded feminine and sort of grinded. It's like nails on a chalkboard. And lo and behold, 2020 comes along, and it's like, whoa, sort of my presuppositions on a lot of things, including, well, everyone wants to be free and everyone wants liberty. That's what I've been talking about. Nope. Okay, that's not true.
Most of them don't, it turns out.
Most of them don't, turns out. I was with a group of ANCAPs, the Austin ANCAPs, living in Austin at the time, and we were like, well, we're all getting together, we're having parties, and people that I would tell outside of those circles, like, you got together with people? And I had people saying, like, if people walk out of their house, they the police drones should shoot them. And it's just like, okay, so the presupposition that everyone wants to be free, that's gone. And then I started seeing, like, this is real evil. This isn't like the John Stossel version of like screwed up politicians. Like, can you believe they thought that lockdowns were going to work? And it's like, no, this is not that. Like, the whole world to fall under this weird spell. Mm-hmm. And I would see people I've known for years, like flipping the switch in their brain of they're like kind of going nuts. Yeah. And I started looking into, like, why is this happening? And my friend Cyprian, who used to go by Vin Armani, was a frequent guest on the show. And he came on during that period, and he broke it down and analyzed it in a more articulate and nuanced and different way than I had heard. And he was Orthodox. And so offline, when the interview was done, I said, you sure have a better grip on this. Like, the way you look at it's just different. And he goes, dude, if you look at all of what's going on through a materialist lens, you've missed the whole plot. Like, that's not what this whole thing's spiritual. And I thought, well, I could kind of see that. And there's a lot of evil going on, but so there's got to be a flip side to that. There has to be good. And I said, you keep talking about orthodoxy. What is that? And he sort of briefly explained it to me. And he said, get this book by Father Seraphim Rose, the guy on my shirt. Mm-hmm. He's an old monk that died in the 90s. He was into Eastern mysticism and all of these sort of new age hippie things. He lived in the Bay Area. He was in swallowed.
The name of the book?
The book was called God's Revelation to the Human Heart.
Yeah, I heard you. I listened to you on somebody else's show mention that book, and I actually went and ordered a copy of it, but it never arrived. So I could have been saved by now, but I'm still a heathen. But anyway, go on.
So it's small too, which is always attractive. You know, in the libertarian world, we like reading, but anytime someone's like, this book, he basically said it's like Anatomy of the State size. And I said, well, that's simple enough. I'll get that.
Yeah.
After we're done talking, click, get the book. Funny, I get it. Lord have mercy on me. I saw Father Seraphim on the front, and I didn't know anything about Orthodoxy. And I thought, that's not what I thought it was. This guy, look at this guy. He had these added beard and long hair. I thought it was going to be some sort of based looking haircut dude. I was an idiot. And so I let it sit for a few weeks, and then I opened it, and my mind was blown. And I was like, whoa, this is not that kind of Christianity that I was against and that I shied away from. Where's this been? Oh, this is the first version of Christianity. I didn't know that. And lo and behold, I live in a town of 13,000 people now, Lockhart, Texas. It's a southern Texas Baptist sort of town. That's the barbecue capital of Texas. Mm-hmm. All there is here is Baptist and that's a large Hispanic population here. So Catholic churches. And lo and behold, my buddy texts me and he's like, hey, you know, there's a Russian Orthodox church like 5 minutes from your house. What? So I find it, sure enough, there it is. And I drive by it about 3 times a week, and I'm scared to go in. And I just keep looking at the sign, although the sign out front said, come and see. I thought, well, that's a cool looking icon. I don't know what that means. I'm scared. I got tattoos. I stand out. These people, this tradition's like the oldest there is. What if they don't like the way I look? All these kind of silly things.
Sure.
And then just these lining up of what I at the time called coincidences. This right-wing guy on Twitter that followed me, you know, with like the avatar that's not really his face and the name that's not really his name, mm-hmm. DM'd. And he said, I heard you on the Pete Quinones show say that you live in Lockhart. I go to this church in Lockhart that's Orthodox. You probably don't know what that is, but I'd like to invite you to it. And then I'm like, what? Who is this? And I said, do you live by me? Like, you want to go get a beer? And he's like, no, I'm about an hour away, but I go there every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's funny you say this. I've been going and sitting outside that church and then driving off like 3 times a week for the past 2. And have you ever heard of Father Seraphim Rose? I just got a book and read it by him. And that's sort of what was piquing my interest. And he was like, Father Seraphim Rose is my family's patron saint. And he's hanging there on the wall in that church as an icon. And a lot of parishes don't have him on the wall in there. And he said, so the fact that I just got this gut feeling to write you've read Father Seraphim and you've lived 5 minutes from that parish that you've been going and staring at, you understand these aren't coincidences. Sure. And I'm still like, are you sure you didn't, like, is this a friend? And he's like, I promise, I had no idea you were looking into this. I just thought I should email this guy or DM this guy. Seems like it would a fit. So I was like, well, these can't be coincidences. Now I'm a little bit freaked out. So I started going. And, he had told my priest about who I was. So I talked to the priest afterwards. And the priest was, so I heard you have a podcast. And I was like, I don't like to talk about that. My politics were...
That wasn't me.
Yeah. My politics are so fringe. It's like, oh,
you didn't want to talk about the Death to Tyrants podcast in church? Is that what you're saying?
And this is after church, and my priest goes, oh, that's cool, man. I'm somewhere to the right of Attila the Hun. And I'm actually worried that one day Tucker Carlson's going to reach out to me and tell me that I'm too far right. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he says, and no one hates communists more than the Orthodox. He's like, they slaughtered millions of Orthodox Christians in Soviet Russia. Mm-hmm. And a lot of saints and martyrs came out of that. And I was like, oh, I think I'm in a good spot then.
Sure.
And so it sort of grew from there.
So Republican Catholicism, is that what you're saying? Catholicism without all the gays? Is that what this is?
It's funny. A lot of people have said, and to be honest with you, I had grown up, again, not Catholic. So I saw icons and I thought, oh, I bet. And then I went to the first liturgy and I thought, I bet this is what like Catholic church is. Then I find out later I dated a young lady that grew up Catholic who's Orthodox now. And she's like, no, it's not at all. And I didn't know that like Catholic church services had become so modernized and there's like bands and instruments up there too. I didn't know all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think if you were to look at a Catholic church 100 years ago, it would probably be more similar to Orthodox now.
Gotcha. So what is this? And is there... This is all just my own curiosity. I have no dog in this fight. I'm looking for truth wherever it may be. So whatever rings most true, I'm down. But explain, like, if someone were looking for a church like the Greek or Roman Orthodox or whatever, like, what is there a vast difference there, or what are we working with?
No. So Orthodoxy is unchanged and the same across the board for the most part. There's a couple of schismatic, what we call the Orthodox jurisdictions that broke away. There's one called Coptic, there's one called Oriental. Outside of those few, Greek, Russian, Romanian, American, there's a ton of jurisdictions is what it's called, and it's all the same. Mm-hmm. So you will get flavors of the culture. For instance, like a Greek parish, they have, the food might be different at coffee hour. The Russian, my jurisdiction is called Rokor, which means Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. And there's probably 4% of the liturgy that's in Slavic, which is church Russian speak. And in the Greek churches, maybe there's a touch of the Greek, but for the most part, in my experience going around, in Texas, I've been to Antiochian parishes, a Greek, Russian. They're pretty much all the same. Just the music, the tone of certain parts of the choir is varied. So if you go to Antiochian,
it's a flavor mostly difference.
Middle Eastern flavor to it. My church has a touch of a Russian flavor. I will say, if you're going to compare outside of the actual liturgy, which is the same across the board, some of the traditions that are not dogmatic, and I would dare say some of the clergy, Rokor and Russian are going to be much more conservative. The Greeks would probably, if you sat down a Greek priest and a Russian priest, there might be some differences politically, but they can't talk about politics during the liturgy anyway. So
nice, as it should be. Now, this, like I said, I grew up all over in all sorts of different churches, trying out a whole lot of them, and even in adulthood, tried a lot of different churches and everything. Mostly like in the evangelical space, because that's just what I knew. Lots of Zionism was around and has been around, and there was a large part, which we'll get into some of that later, in dispensationalism and all that. But the whole just the idea of Orthodox Church, I had heard of Lutherans and Catholics and Baptists and this and that and everything else, but it's never even come up that there's this other option where these guys are, I don't know, what is it? Where does it come from? Why haven't I heard about it if it's the way?
That's a good question. Because once I jumped in to the deep end, essentially, I had this unrighteous anger and resentment saying, why didn't someone tell me about this? Why didn't I know about this? And it's God's timing. I had to have humility and sort of understand that, because I don't know, 7 years ago, I might have heard about it, looked into it and gone, no, that's weird too. I don't know that. But so I have to be happy about when I discovered it. Now, I will say, internet orthodoxy gets sort of a bad rap because a lot of people find it, or the church, and you're so excited. It's kind of like I can relate this to you and me and a lot of your audience. When you first find like Ron Paul or Harry Brown, and you want to argue with like your normie friends, like, dude, your politics are so dumb. Like you believe in aggression, but you're not consistent. There is that sort of zealous nature when you first find the church, because it's like, whoa, what? This is like the real deal. And then there's been all this BS piled on top of Christianity and split off from it for centuries. Mm-hmm. And you get you want to explain that to everyone. So it takes some humility to and sort of let people learn and discover things on their own. So having said that, I think the internet has helped it out a lot, because it's sort of like, once the truth is uncorked, the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in. And so you're starting to see it bubble up online a lot, because the internet, for the most part, sort of is a free flow of information. And I think if you like to speak on, you mentioned Zionism, there's such a backlash against Israel and the Zionism and Zionist quote unquote Christianity, because prior to the internet, that's all we knew. You just grow up in it, like you did, like I did. It's unless you go to a bookstore and find a specific book, you're not going to know that that's not correct. And so now it's all out there, and you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I think you're seeing Orthodox sort of rise up, because people are, well, let me look into this. Now I've heard of it. And then once you start looking into it, a lot of times, if you're really, really searching for the truth, you're going to end up there. And I think that's why you don't go to a lot of mega churches and find Baptists or non-denominational evangelicals who go, oh, I used to be Orthodox, but I found the real church. But you certainly find it's like when you're, no one's born a Ron Paulite, right? It's like, oh, I discovered, well, what'd you used to be? That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And when you meet people that are Orthodox, you always say, not always, but it's very common, what's your story, your conversion story? How'd you find this? What were you before? And it's just all across the board. A lot of New Age people, usually the women that come to the church that were either swimming in the occult or New Age, because women have more of a sense of spirituality. I think they have more of a heightened awareness in their soul. So Boomer Zionism wasn't speaking to them, but sort of New Age sort of things did, and they're searching for this mysticism. And so they end up finding the church, hopefully, and they're like, wait, this has like the positive version of the
Right.
rich spirituality I was looking for, and that occult New Age stuff was like
without the demons.
It is that. And so I think that's why it's swelling up now, its popularity. You asked, what is it? It's pre-denominational. So when you say Baptist and Methodist and Pentecostals, that all came later. I can give a very quick and dirty rundown. The church founded in the Bible is what now is known as the Orthodox Church. In the first 1,000 years, there was nothing but that church as far as Christianity goes. It wasn't called Orthodox Church because it was just church. There was nothing else. And in 1054, the Catholics, what now is known as the Catholic Church, split off. There was a lot of reasons. One of the main ones being that the bishop in Rome of what we'll call the Orthodox Church, they were trying to say, well, no, this one's a little bit more powerful than all of the rest. And that's what became the Pope. And the rest of the Orthodox Church is like, no, he's not. The bishops are all equal. And they just wouldn't let that go. They switched a few other things that I won't get into unless you want to get into that later. But so in 1054, Orthodox Church is here, Catholics split off. Mm-hmm. In 1500s, I think 1580, but someone can correct me on that in the comments. Somewhere in the 1500s, Martin Luther said, wait a second, this Catholic Church there's a lot of issues here. I'm protesting this. And he nailed up, I think it was 93 theses, mm-hmm. and what he saw wrong with the Catholic Church, a lot of which in the Orthodox Church we would agree with. In fact, Martin Luther said around that time, the Greeks in Christianity are the most accurate, and he meant the Greek Orthodox Church, are the most accurate. Anyway, so then he breaks off and forms Protestantism because he was protesting. And then you get break off after break off after break off. You get Baptists, and that all strung out over the next hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah. And so if an early church father from, let's say, 450 AD walked into my parish outside of the fact that it's in English, he would understand every single thing that's happening, and it would make sense. And if he went to a Baptist church, he would have no clue what that was. It would look like as far away from Christianity and the church as you could get. So that's sort of the analogy I use.
Gotcha. I like it. Now, so basically, it's the OG. I mean, Catholicism claims to be the OG. This is the real OG. How has that been preserved and not corrupted? Like, I assume you would say that all these other branches off are corruption of what this initially was meant to be. What is it that makes you feel like this definitely has been preserved well enough that it is worth, staking my entire career on, basically?
Because nothing outside of a little tweaking here and there around the edges, nothing's changed. It's the liturgy that we say that we take part in on Sundays started in the 400s, and it's still the exact same thing. When we read the Bible, the Orthodox Study Bible, it references the church fathers, the apostles for one, and then the people that came after the apostles. So it's an apostolic nature that's been unbroken since Peter, Paul, all of these guys from the Bible. The first bishop, I believe it was in the Antiochian church, was Peter. And so these sort of things too, I was like, what? Peter, the one in the Bible, was a bishop in the church that I'm part of. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, then why was I not going? Like, does that not matter?
I take his word over any of the rest of you fuckers. So, if he was into it.
And so many things changed down the line. For instance, I run into people all the time that say, "Oh, you're Orthodox. Okay, well, I'm this. My church just believes in the Bible." And it's like, okay, who do you think canonized and put the Bible together? That would be the Orthodox Church.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe in it too. It's just that we haven't
and also
distorted.
that can mean so many different things, and everybody can read it completely differently from somebody else, and
Right.
agendas and whatever your perception is will weigh heavily on how you read it and your perception of it. I've heard like every single church that is a Bible believing church makes the exact same claim. You're not special.
Which is why we,
yeah,
the church fathers. So I have one thick version of the Bible that literally, like in Orthodoxy, we follow a liturgical calendar, and every day you have everyone in the church across all jurisdictions in the world reads the same Bible verses. And then it has a breakdown from a church father from 200s, 300s, 400s saying, here's what this is meant to mean. So I tend to put more faith in that than I do what Pastor Hagee says it means. And so, and again, I always relate this back because it's been my nature, even in politics and music. It's like, do you want to read the U.S. Constitution but through the eyes of AOC or Mitt Romney, or read the writings of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison on what they meant by these things? That's how I would, that's the analogy I would make.
Gotcha. So let's get down to the meat and potatoes of it. Like anybody who's coming in the door of any kind of new religion, a new branch of a religion or anything, what are the rules? Like what's the breakdown here? What makes this any different than the Catholic Church? Like what are the do's, the don'ts, the processes, all that stuff?
Interesting. Okay. That's a very broad question. Let me think. So I was told by a gentleman that we have godfathers, godparents in the church. They're basically the ones that help you sort of through the catechumen process before you're baptized and sort of explain the do's and don'ts. Before I get into that, even for anyone listening, I am not an official representative of the Orthodox Church. I've been baptized for 2.5 years. Been going to it for 4.5, and
I'm not a representative of anything except for me. Nobody wants my opinions.
For those listening that are Orthodox that are inquiring, Buck Johnson's word doesn't necessarily hold water as far as the church itself. I am just someone who goes, and I have a podcast where I interview priests about it. So,
quick on that too. I want you to get to your point, but what really intrigues me about your story is that you had this long atheist bout, and you didn't just go like, hey, I guess Jesus is real, so I'm going to jump back into the Baptist church or whatever is the closest, easiest thing. You went from zero to rigid. So I'm kind of curious as to like what the structure is, what the rules are, what made it appealing to you.
Well, the appeal is the true historic nature of it. Like I said, I think I was attracted to Ron Paul because he represented like the pure version of, if you want to call it conservatism or liberty or the Constitution, that sort of thing. When I listened to music, I started with like 90s rock, 80s, 70s, and I'm like, well, Elvis started this, didn't he? Then I got into Elvis. I'm like, well, what he listened to? Then I got into blues. So I like to find and trace things to their origin, because I just think, why would you not want to understand the purity of whatever you're into? So that sort of attracted me. Now the rules, like the Godfather gentleman I was talking about, by the way, my godfather is the guy that DM'd me on Twitter. So it's funny how things play out that way. He told me early, like, in this church, this is not something you're probably used to. Dogma, the actual dogma in this church is like small. The rules that you can or can't or don't have to or want to follow or outside of that are very wide. And so our priests, there's a very personal relationship that each of us has. A lot of people, their priest is what's called their spiritual father. I'm blessed enough to have a spiritual father who's not my priest, who's a priest named Father Turbo Qualls. And then I have my priest as well. So I'm always able to get spiritual guidance from both, one or the other. Mm-hmm. And there's a thing called economia, meaning how do we manage this person? And so, for instance, on the fast, we fast every Wednesday and Friday, and then there's periods of fasting, of course, like for Lent, 40 days, it's over 40 days. But most of the time, people during those fasts are vegan. My priest and my spiritual father were like, look, you work out all the time. You are a firefighter. Your job is tiring and demands a lot. On the fasting, try to do what you can, but if you're eating meat, eat white meat. So it's like we have these rules, like we got to fast, but it can be sort of prescribed to each individual on where you're at, what you do, and sort of kind of meet you where you're at. And we call the church
sinful to not, like in things like that, in these rituals. Is it sinful to not?
No, it's not a sin. We do fasting sort of for a disciplinary thing. Mm-hmm. For instance, this clicked with me when a priest told me, show me a man, an Orthodox man who's addicted to porn, and I'll show you a man who doesn't fast. So meaning like once you start to like have this personal discipline, like I can fast on Wednesdays, Fridays, then of course during the fasting periods like Lent, just the fact that you can discipline yourself to not give in to something that you want sort of helps you in other areas. So, you know, I didn't personally have a problem with porn, but I know that's a common thing with young men. And it was like, hey, you shouldn't watch porn. I was like, okay, well, that's easy. But I do like other things, you know, I enjoy alcohol. And it's like, well, cut back on these fast days. Let's not drink on the fast days.
Sure.
Or if you do, stick to.
So it's more about like control. It's more about self-control and being healthy, being like actual application to real life issues instead of just we're saying prayers and doing these rituals because that's what we do because we're told to. This is how you can live a better life and be a better human and be a more healthy, long-living human that contributes to society and the greater good.
Yes, it's the ritual becomes your reality. And so the more you stick with these things, you start to view the world differently. It's like another example we can analogize with the lefties that celebrate the death, the public execution of Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. Their rituals are like, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. They start to just say these things and then they start to believe them. Then they start to act on these things. That's the negative version of it. So the idea is that the ritual in the church will become your reality if you stick with it and push through hard times and struggles. Struggling is beautiful. And so it's, again, I always use these secular analogies. It's like working out. If you just tell people, oh, I work out, and you get up each day and you're like, not today, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. But if you push through that struggle and go, I'm going to go do this today because it gives me discipline, then at some point your outer features change. And so the idea in the church is that your inside, your spiritual life starts to change and develop and find a disciplined route.
Yeah. I like it in theory and like the idea of it. It seems like it is more based in logical application. Is there anything else on like the disciplines and rituals or anything that people should know about it? Like, are you expected to, I don't know, flog yourself at noon every Thursday, or
No.
What would people be getting into here?
You're given a prayer rule, we call it, and it's just, you can sort of pick your own. For one, we're big on prescribed prayers that have been written by church fathers, and some are obviously in the Bible, the Lord's Prayer. All the Psalms, many of the Psalms, we say those prayers during liturgy. And so every day when you wake up and before you go to bed, there's sort of a list, if you will, of prayers that they your priest or spiritual father would say, you should say these if you can. And throughout the day, maybe say the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's it. But if you could say that 50 times during the day, at least Christ is on your mind. And so when you're saying this throughout the day and you drive by the adult video store, maybe it's like, just say a prayer really quick if that's something you struggle with. And it's like, I'm going to keep going. So we try to get the ritual and the spiritual nature of prayer and fasting as sort of your new lived reality. And because everything's spiritual. And so when you drive past that adult video store, if you have a problem and that's your struggle, the demons are like, just go. You can ask for forgiveness. Just go. And you have to sort of push that voice out and turn to God, which is the North Star for us, and just pray about this. And hopefully these sort of passions, we call them, unhealthy passions, sort of slowly start to burn away. That's the goal.
Nope, I got to unmute myself. Yeah, I like it. Like I said, it does seem more logic oriented and more reality oriented than a lot of other dogmas seem to be that I've experienced and witnessed. But some of the big issues that I've seen in the church, or like all the church divisions and things like that, I've often compared a lot of the Christian stuff that I experienced and witnessed as a child to things that I've experienced and witnessed in the libertarian sphere. Also, like comparisons to like the art sucks, like you're putting the art cart or the preaching cart before the art horse or whatever. And just the divisions over the minutest little things. Like I've seen churches that call other churches the enemy because they disagree on, pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib revelation type stuff, or they think that certain people are going to hell and certain people are not going to hell. Quite frankly, I know this is heretical and nobody likes to hear this who is probably listening to this, but I don't know that I even subscribe to hell anymore. So I'm curious if the Orthodox view on hell, who do you think's going there? What do you think the revelation, rapture, all that stuff is? And what do we do?
Okay. First off, you asked the do's and don'ts. It is a very strict rule. We do not know, nor claim to know, nor should ever say publicly or even in your own mind or amongst friends who's going to hell and who's going to heaven. We don't know that. You don't know that. And so we need to lead with our humility, or have some humility, and understand the second I'm like, well, John Hagee's preaching Zionism and it is a heresy and it is contra church, let's say, I don't know where he's going when he dies, where his soul's going. I don't know that. And so we don't claim to know that. We also, being saved is not a one-time thing. So I grew up hearing like, well, I was saved on December 7th, 1973. And it's like, we don't do that either. We can say, I was saved, I'm being saved, and I hope to continue to be saved, because repenting is a lifelong thing. You don't just go, it's like Trump said, people love me so much I could kill someone on Fifth Avenue or something, right, and they'd still, it's like, well, if you're Christian, you can't just go, I'm saved, and then go out and kill people and like, well, no, I was saved, so it's all good. You can lose salvation, which is sort of contra to a lot of Western Christianity, where once saved, always saved.
Are you losing it at that point, or were you just not saved? I mean, I've heard this argument 1,000 times, and it's always between probably two sides that I disagree with both of them on personally. But even being saved is sort of a term we don't say very often. The purpose of life is what we call theosis, and it's to become like Christ if you can. The saints are certainly further along, way further along than I am. But yeah, you can walk closer and closer to that mark, and you can get further and further back. And we look at hell and heaven. For one, they don't exist
in this moment because the second coming hasn't happened. But there's what we call like Hades as the place of the dark and the dead, and there's sort of what we would call paradise, where your soul has sort of a glimpse of where you might be headed once the second coming happens, and then the heavens are created, new heavens, new earth.
I need to pause you for a second. What do you mean by, are you saying that neither hell nor heaven are currently in existence, but will be during this next chapter, and everybody's just kind of in limbo right now? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Not limbo, then what do the Catholics call that? It's not purgatory. Mm-hmm. Like where you end up is the state where your soul's at. We almost say heaven and hell, Christ is everywhere. Heaven and hell aren't like some far off places, or right now Hades and paradise. It's the light of Christ when you're closer to Christ and living that way burns beautifully and bright. And when your soul is not that way, it's like an all-encompassing fire. It's like when you if you were sleeping on the beach with a towel over your face and you just rip it off, the sun, not so fun. But if you've been out there acclimating yourself to the sun, it's beautiful. That's another analogy I use to that.
Not for us ginger-skinned folk. It doesn't get better the more you stay out in the sun. It actually gets worse because God hates us. But that's a different topic.
Then you don't even have a soul. You're a ginger. That's a whole different
So I don't have to worry about hell because I'm damned anyway. Yeah, I mean, my skepticism on hell, and it's certainly heretical to everything that I was taught and everything that most people believe, and that's fine. I don't hold that strong of opinions on it. I think that I can't imagine a God that loves his children or understands his children less than I understand my children. There's nothing that my child could do that would make me give him eternal damnation of any kind. I am curious to understand better how you think all of that plays out, but yeah, like if my child stabbed me to death slowly or tore me limb from limb, I still wouldn't want him to burn forever in an eternal lake of fire, no matter what they did. So yeah, it's hard for me to grasp and wrap my brain around anymore. There's also part of me that's like, I don't control what is or isn't. I didn't control how my brain was made. I think it's also cruel if God made me with a brain that doesn't come to the right conclusion and it burns forever because of it. I definitely wouldn't hold that against my child if I controlled every single molecule of their existence and therefore the thoughts that come of those molecules, and then was like, well, fuck you didn't figure it out. I don't know. It's hard to buy. But how does hell play out in this Orthodox non-purgatory type situation?
Well, the good thing is we, again, don't know who's going there. So even if someone, came at me and stabbed me to death, like we don't know where Hitler will end up once this all comes to pass. We don't know where the young man, if he shot Charlie Kirk, where he was going to end up. We don't know any of that. Like for the thief on the cross, right, was an unrepentant thief until he's up there on the cross and then repents, and Christ says, you will be with me in paradise. The good thing is we have free will. So there's a prescription on if you'd like to have a better chance at getting to paradise and then heaven, there's a prescription to follow. If you don't have to follow that. We all have free will, and you can walk away from that and sort of take your chances. And again, we pray for the dead in Orthodoxy, which is sort of something that a lot of Western Christians don't do. The prayers of the Orthodox Church can have an effect on the soul that's passed. And so there's all sorts of what ifs. There's nuance to all of this. Again, we don't go, well, you're going to hell if you don't do this, or I'm going to heaven because I do this. We take the tradition and the guidance of the church and hope that we can live and act and pray in a way that gets us to paradise when we pass. Because again, I would never ever claim, well, I'm an Orthodox Christian, I'm going to heaven. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I hope that.
I appreciate that. My biggest issue with every single dogma or theology is the people who insist that they know, that they have it all figured out. It's like, as soon as you start telling me that this is this because I read this and it said this and this is how I interpreted it, and I know that that was passed down exactly right through all the generations and different languages and everything, and I have it all figured out. Like, as soon as you start telling me that I know that you're telling me lies, and I'm not going to listen. But I certainly appreciate we don't know who is going to hell, who is not, and I mean, do they? What do you think hell is, or what does the Orthodoxy think hell is? Is it a fire in the core of a spinning ball in the galaxy, or what is hell?
It is the state that your soul's in relative to the light of Christ is the best way I can put that. And if there's a priest listening to this and I'm saying that incorrectly, forgive me. That's how I understand it at this point. Again, the light of Christ, as you move closer to it through the process called theosis, it's a good thing. The further you move from it, it's a burning, scalding light that you don't want any part of. And I would say to those people also, this bugs me, the same thing that bugs you. Well, I know this, I'm going there. St. Paul says for these people that say, well, my church is a biblical church. Well, he says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, not with pride and certainty. So
God seemed to like the wrestle. He seemed to like people struggling and trying to figure things out.
Yes, yeah. The name Israel came about when a man wrestled with Christ. He was called Israel after that. So, there's lots of wrestling there. Struggling is good. Not struggling also for struggle's sake. Then it becomes vanity and pride. Like, well, look at me. I'm going through all of this because God wants me, shh.
Right.
Yeah.
Struggling because you did the right thing and it brought struggle upon you without you needing to post it on Facebook.
Yes. the example of the young man who has issues with porn, going by a whorehouse in Amsterdam or an adult video store. The struggle then becomes right inside you, right now, right then. God, I want to go in there. I know I shouldn't do this. There's a struggle there. And if you can pray and keep going, know that, okay, in humility and struggle, I think I did the right thing there. I wouldn't then go on social media and go, guys, I just did the best thing. It's like the ex-alcoholics. It's like, I've gone 5 years without a drink. Quit focusing on your passions and announcing them. It's like picking a scab. It's like, oh man, I burned my arm in this fire. It's, hey, a month later, guys, look where I burned myself, right? You're like, stop picking at it. It won't heal. Let it go.
Yes, absolutely. And we do have to we have to play some ads at some point, and we got to pay the bills and whatnot. So there's not a great transition out of this conversation into ads about lawyers, but if you find yourself in a real hell of a situation legally, you should contact Lone Star Injury Attorneys. Nailed it.
The great William Shakespeare once said, "First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers." That's right. It is common knowledge that literally no one in the known universe actually likes lawyers. That is, until they're saving your ass. Max the Axe at Lone Star Injury Attorneys is a professional ass saver. A rare breed, though he be a lawyer, he is indeed a principled libertarian, a defender of the injured and downtrodden, a supportive, faithful Downers Club member, my personal favorite, and a shockingly kind and hospitable fellow at an award-winning personal injury law firm. So if you've been injured on the job in an automobile accident or some other form of cattywampus beyond your personal control, visit LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com or just Google Max the Axe for maximum results. Consultations are free and you don't pay a single dime unless you win. Go with the pros at LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com and get your ass covered.
And we're kind of back, but before we're back, if your ass is not covered and you're shitting your pants, you should get Sheath underwear, my friends. Do yourselves a favor and elevate your daily comfort with Sheath underwear. The innovative dual pouch design provides unparalleled support and separation, ensuring each part of you has the space it deserves. Now, Dave would usually be the one to jump in here, and Buck doesn't have the script, so I'll just have to do my best, Dave. Yeah, bros, experience the sophistication of a design that respects your anatomy. The moisture-wicking technology sets a new standard in comfort. This advanced system not only keeps you cool, but also prevents chafing and odor, making every movement feel effortless. That's right, Dave. So go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code SYSTEM at checkout. Experience the perfect blend of comfort and functionality with Sheath. Again, that's sheathunderwear.com, promo code SYSTEM. Also, Mycadelics connect with nature's wisdom through Mycadelics Mushroom Grow Bags by Tyson 2.0 and Shroom. Now you can cultivate your sacred mushrooms at home. That's right, Dan. Our all-in-one kits guide you, I don't usually read this part, on this transformative journey. Just add your liquid culture and witness the miracle growth, period. Our advanced filter technology preserves purity, allowing multiple harvests 4 to 6 weeks. That's right, Dave. So go to advancedmichael.com and use promo code SYSTEM. Save $5 at checkout and embrace mindfulness and spiritual nourishment. Begin your mushroom journey with Mycadelics Grow Bags today. Must be 21 or older. And finally, Perfect Spiral. Tired of the corporate banking cartel and state-rigged markets stealing your wealth bank free? With Perfect Spiral Capital, they'll help you build riches on your terms outside of whoever they are, their grip. Invest like it. That's right, Dan. Invest like a dissident. Ditch the system on your own. Own your future. No handouts, no bailouts, just results. The system is rigged and inflation is eating your savings. Opt out now and stack real assets with Perfect Spiral. Build wealth that lasts. Perfect Spiral Capital. No bullshit, no red tape, just smart strategies for serious people who crave freedom and financial sovereignty. Join the rebellion at perfectspiralcapital.com/system. All right. Now, we're back. And back on the topic of hell. I got to say, so far, best answer I've ever heard to the question of hell. And just to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, your answer is, I don't really know, but it seems like hell is the absence of God, and it seems like that is a very bad place to be, and I don't want that, and don't want that for other people. And after people die, is there still a chance for them to be resurrected, not resurrected, but saved or whatever, to get a second chance? This is kind of like, and I've said before, I'm what I was calling a hopeful universalist. Like, I'm not a universalist necessarily, but I hope that everybody, I hope that everybody has whatever the next good thing is in their existence in the universe or whatever. But is my understanding correct on this hell concept, or am I missing something?
No, that sounds right. And the people, again, it hasn't happened yet. The heavens and the earth, the hell, that's after the second coming. There's time to you're in sort of, like you said, a limbo state. But from what we understand, the eyes of your soul have a pretty good idea of what's happening, and so it might look like you're headed towards Hades, or it might have a beautiful light like you're in paradise. We as Orthodox Christians on this earth always pray for the souls of the dead, because again, those help. We don't know what these people had in their heart. I don't know what Charlie Kirk had in his heart. I don't know him. And his wife probably knows him quite well. She doesn't know everything that was in his heart. So I've prayed for him multiple times. And I pray for my family that passes away, because those prayers can help as far as I understand. And I don't know the gravity of how much it can help or the severity one way or the other. But I know as an Orthodox Christian, I can do that. And if that helps, then I would like to do that.
All right. So what is it? And I don't expect you to have all the answers. And if you did have all the answers, I would be even more skeptical. So I like your humility and honesty. But like, I don't know, like, what are the souls experiencing? Because, I mean, for me, in the hopeful universalist mindset that I've had, I'm like, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. What does that mean exactly? Do we have another chance? Like, all will see and bear witness to the glory of God and whatever. Like, there's some passages that seem to implicate that, or at least in my mind, I'm like, it sounds like it might be possible that no matter how fucked up you were, you die, you go somewhere, and then they're like, hey, here's what shit looks like. You still don't believe, right? And then most people, or possibly all people, are like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I was an asshole that entire time.
It's too late then. We are told that. That's why repenting. I'll tell you a quick little story. I was on Mount Athos, and for those who don't know what that is, it's a peninsula off the coast of Greece that's been there for over 1,000 years. It's only monks and monasteries there. That's all that's there. The last female to set foot on it was the Virgin Mary. And so we were driving around there. I was with a priest named Father Peter Heers and a group of pilgrim, or how do you say that? Guys on a pilgrimage, Orthodox men.
Pilgrimagers, I think is the technical term.
And we're cruising around, going between monasteries, and we're doing the what if game. Would you rather? And someone said, would you rather die right now or spend the rest of your life in prison? And I was like, I'd rather die now. And Father Peter Heers jumped on me. No, why would you say that? You need to take life in prison because you would have a lifetime of repentance you still need to do. Do you think like a Protestant, like, oh, I'm good
too still?
And I was like, oh, that's a good point. And there's a story of a saint who I'm going to butcher this, but hopefully a lot of y'all don't know this story, so it'll sound like I'm saying it detail for detail, but who was sick on his deathbed, and he was such a holy man that he actually had like a glow about him, and he was sort of looked upon by his peers as like, this is the most holy man we know. And they said, Father so-and-so, do you have any... I mean, you're dying soon. Like, are you? How happy are you? And he was like, I'm terribly upset. I wish I was alive for 100 more years so I could still repent. And Father Peter told me, so if that saint needed to do that, Buck, no offense, I think you should take life in prison. And so our sort of point here is like, once you die, the repenting part's done. That's why what you do. This life on earth is just a very small happening on a grand eternal scale. Sure. And so the point while you're here is to repent and come towards Christ, because once you die,
can you explain the repenting a little bit more and what exactly that means to you? Because to me and to probably most normies, you need to spend a life of repentance and you need to continue repenting. You want to live as many years as you possibly can to repent as much as you can. Sounds like just self-loathing and just self-flogging or whatever to atone for all your sins. And the great joy of this priest that you speak of is that he wants to be able to flog himself for 100 more years. Can you explain what repentance is to you?
Yeah, repentance means turning back towards Christ. So it's like you struggle, you slip, you fall, get up, keep going, repent, confess, and then keep moving towards that direction. It's just sort of like if you were taking a road trip and the ultimate goal is Las Vegas. Bad example for this podcast. The ultimate goal is Nebraska, and you keep breaking down. The goal is to still get there. You don't just break down and say, well, screw it. I just can't get there. And so, in other words, when you fall into darkness or sin,
there's nothing in Nebraska, so it's fine. But go on.
Again, it's like the go back to the young man passing. He's in Amsterdam and he passes the red light district, and he's like, one time I'm going in. Well, you fell, you slipped, go to confession. It's done. It's over with. Try not to do that again. Repenting would be don't do that again.
Okay. So repenting, would you say repenting from your perspective is kind of like being your best, and the reason why this priest wanted to live 100 more years is because not because he wanted to be sorry for all the evil that he did, but he wanted to keep improving himself and putting more of himself into the world?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, it's funny, I was in Mount Athos, and again, it's only monks, and I'm like amongst these holy men, and I'm like, God, it's just, I'm like, some of them haven't seen a female in 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, have this sinful mindset, like,
Must
I
be
don't
so
know,
peaceful.
yeah, maybe it's a good thing. And I would see them going to confess to their priest. And I remember thinking, like, what could he be confessing? And it's just like, we all have issues with pride, vanity, sloth, overindulgence of food and drink. It could have been anything. And so you're trying to sort of tweak those raw areas of the sinful nature of your soul to just strengthen itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that. And even in my own explorations, just not ties really to anything as of quite a while, I'm like, well, when I do this, it doesn't make my life better in the long run. Like I can analyze, like, if I overdrink, I'm going to be miserable the next day. That's not that deep or profound, but if like there's a certain point where I need to, switch. If I'm working on a project or something late, I'll have a few drinks, but there might be a certain point where I need to switch to water or an energy drink or something to make sure that my life doesn't suck more tomorrow, that I don't bring more hell into my life in the morning because of this, even if it feels good right now. But I do want to talk about another phrase that we've mentioned a couple times here, and I haven't actually heard this phrase before you either, and I've heard it popping up everywhere since then, dispensationalism. I feel like I probably grew up within it, but I don't really know what it is and didn't know anything about it, had not heard the term. So can you explain and break down what that is and what the rise is there?
Yeah, I'll do a quick kind of low down dirty version. I've done so many episodes on it. You can get like deep into where this started, what it means broadly speaking, specifics. Dispensationalism, for the most part, for most people that are dispensationalists, means the Jews are God's chosen people and Christians are not necessarily God's chosen people, but we have two different paths to get to the same end goal. And there's other forms of dispensations. It basically means there's the first dispensation in the book of Genesis, and there's another dispensation in this book. And then throughout the ages, there's various dispensations. But the most common one that a lot of evangelicals believe is that the Jews, again, are the chosen people. And
what do you mean
they're
by
on
dispensations? Like just
time periods.
Deviations? Or what?
Yeah, time periods.
Okay.
There's a bunch more. That's when it gets difficult and muddy because I'm not an expert on it.
Sure.
I think for generally speaking, for us to understand is the whole chosen people thing, and that's not true. Dispensationalism and the Jews being the chosen people and the pre-tribulation rapture are all sort of wrapped up into the same heretical ice cream sundae.
Mm-hmm.
And that started in the 1800s, and no Christian on the planet ever in existence believed it before about 1870s, I believe. And a lot of that was started by a man named John Nelson Darby, who was from the Church of England and sort of a con man. And then he influenced a guy named Cyrus Scofield, who wrote the Scofield Study Bible. And in those footnotes, that's sort of where it all started to appear. And it's heresy. It's heresy in the fact that it's against the church and it's incorrect. It's not a heresy in the fact that the church once believed it and then it got flipped. Like the church never ever believed that, and we still do not. That came on the very modern idea.
So what was it that was changed or added, or what's the claim there?
The claim is that, well, Jews are the chosen people. That's very easily proven and correct. Luckily, a lot of even Protestants are starting to understand the false nature of that claim.
So is the claim that in the original whatever scriptural text that it did not make the claim that Jews were the chosen people, or what do you mean by that?
Well, in the Bible that it claims that. It was in the study notes of Cyrus Schofield's. The Schofield Study Bible is one of the most popular Bibles ever since its inception, unfortunately. And so, again, a lot of these people that believe that, through no fault of their own, grew up going, my study Bible, that's my preacher, my pastor said this. Isn't that the case? Fortunately, again, because of the internet, and there's so many platforms and you can't really hide truth online, they're starting to go, wait a second. So hold on, where did that come from? Mm-hmm. Oh,
but is it actual passages that were added that portray that, or things that were changed, or what?
Well, things have been changed over the different versions of the Bible, but it's his study notes and footnotes.
Okay.
It's literally a study Bible. So you would have these Bible classes, these Protestants would, and go, well, let's go over these verses. Well, look what it says in the footnotes, what that means. There's a pre-tribulation rapture.
Once again, people claiming that they know and have full understanding of the context of this scripture.
Yes. And so people that grew up being given that Bible, they go to Bible classes in schools, and here's the Bible you're given. Well, you would learn that. And so I don't fault them necessarily. I fault them when they hear the truth and then go, nuh-uh, my study Bible says otherwise. And it's like, well, that was created in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, I don't fault them either. I don't fault my parents. And basically... they were taught what they were taught. I was taught what I was taught, and we are all the product of a million variables. But my understanding as a child was like, well, the Jews are the chosen people, and we're the Christians over here. But we have it figured out, and we are right, but they're not quite right, but they're almost right. And Jesus was a Jew and everything. So when the rapture happens, we're going to go up and they're going to stay behind and they're going to convert, and then they're going to convert other people. And then everything's going to be hunky dory. They're all going to get their heads chopped off. And then we all live forever in a wonderland or something.
You grew up.
Is that not true?
Not true, but that is the story as it goes. And there are,
like, that seemed like a workaround to they believe other things, but they're the chosen people, and we believe this thing, but we have to support them. It's like, well, how does that make sense? Well, it makes sense. Don't worry about it. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But we won't be here, so it's fine.
The way to understand this properly in the Orthodox Church as it's taught, Rabbinic Judaism, which is the Judaism that is around now. If you go down the street and you see a Jewish temple, that's Rabbinic Judaism. They have rabbis. And that was created in about 200 something AD, after Christ's death and resurrection. It was specifically and explicitly created anti-Christ, against Christianity. I'm sure you're familiar. I know that the Talmud is getting a lot of air.
It's growing
if
in
you
popularity lately. Yes.
Critiques of it are. The book has many scriptures in it that are specifically against Christ, against the Virgin Mary. So all of the original Judaism, once Christ died on the cross and was resurrected, it's done. And the temple was destroyed. It's done. So chosen people, that's all done. The Jews that will hopefully, to end up in heaven at some point, have to turn to Christ. And It says St. Paul talks about the olive branches, the olive tree. The natural branches were cut off because they fell away from Christ. And these new branches, Christians, Gentiles, were grafted in. Now it says those other branches that were cut off, the non-Christian Jews, they can be grafted back on if they turn to Christ. And a lot of them have, but many of them have not. And again, the Jewish people now, if you're talking specifically the religion, it's Rabbinic Judaism, which again was created way after Christ had resurrected and was gone, just to specifically be against Christianity. So they are not the chosen people. They are choosing literally to be against Christ, and it's an anti-Christian religion.
And it's especially interesting if you think about how much Israel has been propped up and Judaism has been propped up in Western Christianity. And it's like, well, they not only don't believe in your Savior, they believe that not all of them. I mean, if you go with Talmudic or whatever, believe that he's burning whatever, he's blasphemy, he's burning in his own excrement, blah blah blah, whatever. All that stuff aside, at the very least, even if you don't take those passages as at face value. They believe he's a heretic. And not only that, but they're waiting for a next Messiah. And your Messiah already came, and your Messiah said the next Messiah is going to be the Antichrist. So if you buy into all that, if you buy into any of that, their whole shtick is let's bring this shit down and bring about the rise of the Antichrist. If you guys believe what you say,
which is why it's troubling when you start to mix that bad theology with foreign policy. And so you see these, like, who promotes all the wars in our entire lifetime? Zionists. And so they think that they can script this thing themselves, like they're trying to get this, the golden heifer and get over to the state of, the red heifer, get it to the state of Israel. It's like you're trying to get these things to happen to promote a thing that's not even real. It's the Antichrist that you're going to end up worshiping, not the Christ. And so,
what are they going to do if the Jews win and get their guy? Are they like all the Western Christians are going to be like, well, I guess we have to support that too. Like, I mean, the genocide was bad and all, but we had to support that. But they got this guy who's saying he's the new Messiah. I get it seems like that's how you get people to go along with the thing that they've been predicting this entire time, which I don't even necessarily buy all of that either.
That is correct. It's been subverted. But I mean, when you're talking about a religion that's specifically anti-Christian, wouldn't they want to subvert Christianity and get unknowing Christians on their side? Mm-hmm. That's sort of how that works.
It makes sense, but you're an anti-Semite if you notice things. Which is why I like this whole, not because of the anti-Semitism. That's an entirely different thing. I mean, obviously there's ties into it, but what I like about what I've heard on your show and heard in the clips that I've done and heard here tonight is just that there's not a fear of questions. There's not a fear of topics. There's just logic and reason and spirituality and mysticism that you accept is to some degree beyond our reason and understanding, and we will never fully understand it, and that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's I don't know about the rest of every one of you guys, but the humility of it certainly is a selling point for me. And I came into this with, like I said, an open mind. I have a history, and I have a history of just rebelling against what I thought spirituality was and coming back to it and not really knowing exactly what makes sense, but I'm just looking for the thing that makes logical sense. And I'm really fucking sick of religion that is like, well, your logic is good and all, but it needs to stay over in this box because the creator of all who created your brain that came to these conclusions can't possibly handle your brain that he made. And there's something about anybody who's like, I will tell you when I don't know. Something that you almost never hear from an evangelical pulpit is the words, I don't know. And somebody who is like, if it doesn't make logical sense, then it doesn't make logical sense. Spirituality is beyond logic to some degree, so there's a bit of faith that is required there, but it doesn't have to fully be understood and then sold in a market somewhere. Like, you don't have to fully grasp the concepts of the universe and then sell it on a t-shirt to be whatever, preaching the gospel. So I like it. What would you I'm gonna go. There's a few local places that I'm gonna check out, and I've talked to my wife about it, and we are planning to. But what should be expected walking into something like this for the first time? As you said, you drove past it and stared at it and debated it for quite some time internally. What did you experience the first time walking in, and what should other people expect?
Okay, first, my suggestion would be, I think maybe contrasting with what I grew up with in a megachurch, like there was no way I could, well, except for the fact that I knew my Pastor Hagee and his family because they lived near me. Outside of that, it's not like you're going to contact a megachurch preacher and go, hey, I'm thinking about coming up with the other 3,000 people.
Right.
However, in Orthodox parishes, it's very helpful, and I think you will find it to be on the side of good and logical and productive to at least email go to the church, whatever parishes you're looking at going to. They have a website. Email them and just say, hey, I'm an inquirer, just thinking about checking out Orthodoxy. What should I do? And that way they're sort of like, okay, this guy and his family or whatever are going to show up, and they'll sort of, usually in every Orthodox parish I've ever been into, there's people there that are regulars that will say, hey, afterwards or before if you're early, hey, welcome. Are you new? Where you guys live? Is this your first time? Talk to the priest. The priest is there to answer questions. They're usually super friendly and they're not judgmental. Like, oh my God, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Very friendly and just say, hey, well, let us know if you want to come back, and, no pressure. Do you know what jurisdictions are around you that you would be going to? I shouldn't suggest specific jurisdictions, but I might.
I'll message you privately, and I don't remember what exactly any of them are, but I'll send you some links if you. I would appreciate you letting me know if there's anything to avoid, because I don't know.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a pro, but I have a feel sometimes for certain parishes. So if I saw them, I would go, I think you might like this one better. Sure. I would go to a few different ones. Understand, okay, here's what I would say. Wear comfortable shoes. The liturgy is about an hour and 45 minutes. Sure. You typically stand, unless some Greek parishes have pews. Russian ones will not. If there's always a pew or something for older people that can't stand, but people our age stand for the most part. So that was a bit shocking. And the first month, I was like, man, these services are long. Now, like, not at all. So expect to be there a little bit longer than you would a Protestant church. And something that I didn't know about, the sermon in an Orthodox service is at the very most 10 minutes, usually about 6 minutes. The rest of it is liturgical in nature. I mean, there's no instruments. You're not going to hear a band. You're not watching worship music. There's a choir that sings throughout and along with the prayer, the stuff the priest is doing. Every service has communion. That's the point of being there for us, is to commune with Christ and take the body and blood. If you're not baptized, you don't do that anyway, so you get to sit and watch that part. So steps, reach out to the priest would be my suggestion. Tell him you're curious. You heard it on Counterflow. I'm just joking. Don't say that. And,
use promo code Buck Johnson.
Yeah.
Check
it. Yeah. Contact the priest. Wear comfortable shoes. Understand that it's a little bit longer. Also, I don't know if this was started by the Greeks. We jokingly call it Greek time. And having been in Greece with Father Peter Heers, who's Greek, holy goodness. We joke about black time, blacks being late. Greeks were way worse. And so many times, Father Peter, like, Father, you said we got to go, and you've been talking to this guy 30 minutes. Every Orthodox service I've ever been to, people are coming in for the first 45 minutes at various paces. So that was a bit different for me. So if you're running late, don't go, oh shit, we can't go. They've already started. That happens all the time, every single week. And the kids do not go into a separate area. So at first that was distracting for me, but we want the babies and kids to grow up with experiencing the liturgy, being there in the presence of Christ. They don't go to a separate room. So every Orthodox parish you go to, you will hear babies cry at some point. You will see the moms walking, getting the kids, taking them outside, letting them run around, coming back in. So it's sort of a flow that just keeps happening. And it's not like you get here at 9, everyone stands here, and you leave here at 11. It's just people are coming in and out, kids are talking, babies are crying, but the entire time everyone's focused on Christ. That's the goal.
I like it. And I do want to address, you've brought up a couple times that there's no like there's music, but there's no like drums, there's no like band or anything, there's no worship leader necessarily. You and I both come from a music background to some degree, and I come from a background of many worship bands even that I have played with, and there have been some, the vast majority of them I've been like, I'll hit the heads, I'll play the drums, I'll do what you need me to do. But there have been a couple arrangements of worship music that, in my softening of heart in the religious aspects, I have come to enjoy. For you as a musician as well, how does that look to you? Like, is it like this is disrespectful? Because like also when I grew up, it was like a fight to be able to play drums because there were the old folks who were like, no, we need just hymnals. And I was the one being like, no, we need drums and we need guitars and things. So was I a part of the problem, or like, is it disrespectful, or how is that? What is the reason for the musical choice, or how is that perceived?
I don't find it disrespectful or part of a problem. That's for a lot of churches, that's a big draw, and but that's just their version of the church, a church. But this worship, like I said, the worship that we do on Sundays goes back to 400 something AD, and not shocking, there were no drums, amplifiers.
So it's not hymnals?
There's hymns, yes, and the crowd, if you will, for lack of a better phrase, the layman's, the membership are encouraged. I mean, it's very common that there's a choir, usually about 8 people. There's a choir director. She or he is reading the hymns and doing the hand things and kind of getting people in and out. But most of the laity sing along because you start to know the songs by heart, because they're literally the same songs every Sunday. Because again, it's the same liturgy all across the world that's happened for 1,500 years. And so you start to understand the songs, you know them, people sing with the people sing with them, but it's just a choir is the basis of it. And there's a choir leader, choir director, we call it. And they have practice because everyone's singing, as the music people understand, different parts, highs, mids, lows, to sort of sound cohesive and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it goes. I am so thankful there are no instruments. It's not my thing. There are Orthodox bands, there's Orthodox hardcore bands, metal bands. Someone told me about a rap group recently, but it's just in the liturgy, in the service itself. It's not about who can play what. You'll notice also, we're not no one's looking at the choir. Everyone is facing the altar where the icon of Christ and his mother and all the saints are, including the priest. When he comes out and is doing the liturgical things that he does, he's not looking at you either. He's also looking at Christ until the moment when the sermon starts and he says, you may be seated. For about 5 minutes, he faces his flock, gives a quick sermon based on whatever gospel readings were for that Sunday. That's it. Back in, and to basically that after that, he's prepping the Eucharist, the communion, and prayers are being read, songs are being sung. It's just a real beautiful thing. The incense are going, the priest is coming out and waving the censer. It's a full experience with sight, smell, taste, sound, and everything is sort of awakened in you. And it's, I love it. It's beautiful.
I like it. And for you as an artistic guy, with an artist background to some degree, and musician, all that stuff, I've heard you talk about like the art of it all too, like the symbolism and everything. I don't come from any of that. I'm not familiar. I do certainly appreciate the art, and I've even made like I said earlier, the argument about Christian art. I have an early episode called "Why Christian Art Sucks and God Hates Kirk Cameron." Kirk Cameron is pushing against the narratives right now, so I'm on his side, and I'm pulling back on all of the cynicism of yesteryear, but I do. It can't go without noticing that Christians of the past made a lot better art in cathedrals and Sistine chapels and whatnot than they're making in, like Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. My personal favorite ironic Christmas movie, but Nicolas Cage is Left Behind and whatnot. But like the stuff of, or even like a lot of the bands and stuff that I grew up with, God bless them, they're still making a killing off of youth groups and everything, but it doesn't feel like it's inspired by the creator of the universe to me. It feels like they're cashing in on something. So can you talk a bit about like the art, what you've experienced with the art of Orthodoxy and some of the symbolism versus evangelical or whatever Christian art of today?
Well, I mean, I think it's night and day different. That's, again, when I said, I was softening on Christianity, and it's like I would hear worship bands and stuff, and it's like, well, not that. I'm not going to that. I need to figure something else out. I didn't know Orthodoxy existed. And then I walk into the parish, and it's like icons everywhere, like the ones behind me. Like, I mean, goodness, look, it's got my ring light on it, but stuff like this is so much more beautiful, appealing, inspired. They call it, when they say, we can, laity sometimes say, an iconographer painted this icon, but they call it writing. They wrote this icon because there's a story in every single piece and what it represents. And so it's everywhere. It's beautiful. And for those who are outside of the church, we do not worship icons. That is sort of a stumbling block for some people. Like, look at them, they're worshiping them. We don't worship icons. We worship Christ and Christ alone. We don't. We pray to saints as intercessors between us and Christ. We don't think saints are God. There's a lot of sort of preconceived notions that outsiders have, like, oh my God, I saw him like prostrating and he kissed that icon. Ooh, God, that's not in the Bible. It is, well, and all our churches, our parishes are modeled after the Jewish temples in the Old Testament, where they have now found plenty of them in historic digs and whatnot, and there's iconography all over it. Mm-hmm. So it is not against the Bible or Christ. It's common. It's a beautiful way to express, like there's like, a
beautiful way to express creation, like as a creation of the Creator who made all this beauty. It is the outpouring of the most like appreciation of you being created, putting your best creation and beauty into the world.
And you're not doing it for your own vanity or like, look what I did. You're doing it for God. Mm-hmm. Another one I have here was written, if you will, by my spiritual father. I'm so bad at these angles. Father Turbo Qualls, who was a tattoo artist, did this one, and it just I find it much more appealing than certain things. A lot of boomer mega churches you go to, there's no art anywhere. In fact, sometimes there's no cross, which I find weird. It's like gray walls, a stage with it's like the drums have that plastic clear thing around them. It looks like you're in a hotel, like the thing we were in for when we went to see Ron Paul. It's like you're in a meeting
conference hall
or something with a stage and a guy's giving a TED talk. That's fine. If you want to go to a TED talk about the Bible, I get it, and see bands that sing about the Bible. For me, it's not church. Church is being with God, Christ, worshiping Christ in the moment. It doesn't matter. The priest can be plucked out and replaced, and you should not ever know it. So we're not making an idol of my pastor's cool, or he's funny, or he makes these jokes, or he wears a cool jacket. Mm-hmm. It's not about him. It's about Christ. And so I just find all of that appealing. Again, I find the art appealing. We joke about these Left Behind movies, not only that they're fake and that's not, the pre-tribulation rapture is not real, but that, the art's bad. It's bad cinema. It's corny.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
Yeah.
And in all of this, it's a lot of sensationalism. And a lot of their art is trying to be sensationalist or whatever. Like, it's trying to make you feel a certain way so that you do a certain thing. It's manipulation at the end of the day. It's propaganda for Jesus and their version of Jesus, which is hard to sell because it's really inside this box. And then they're trying to make something that is forcing things to be outside of the box, try and say, if you get inside this box, it will work just fine. So a lot of the churches that I've been to have been very sensationalist oriented, and like, if you didn't feel this way or you didn't have this experience, then you're not necessarily lesser, but you didn't do the thing that you were supposed to do if you didn't have that moment during worship, or that moment during the altar call, or the fall down moment and the shaking and the speaking in tongues or whatever. If you don't feel a way, if you're honest with yourself and you're like, I just don't feel that way, then you're something else and you haven't quite gotten it yet. With this, it feels more like we all know that we're humans. We're human beings, and we're going to come to this beautiful thing and marvel at the icons and the artwork together of the past and the people that have gone before us, who have been just similarly to us, wrestling and struggling and trying to figure out this fucking shit. And they're like, This is to the best of my ability, what I've got, and I'm going to put the best out there that will surpass generations and still maintain, while the Christian rock band is probably not going to live past the youth group's lifespan or whatever. I don't know. Just something about it's like sensationalist, but it's not forced or expected sensationalism. It's like, look, marvel, come and see, like you said, come and marvel at the beauty of this and what we understand from history and the humility of the best of our abilities from what we've gathered. Marvel at it with us, and then let's do the thing that it seems like helped people's lives get better in the past, and people who are smarter than us, who have been through more life experience than us, seem to take something away from this. Let's get together, and then we'll focus on that, and we'll focus on this. And my next question, though, is there any extracurricular activity?
That was great, by the way.
Thank you.
You need to clip that part.
Oh, I will. It's my job. Yeah, it's unfortunate that I work for Dissident Media, so I have to clip my own shit as well. It's tragic, but Dave, you just get your shit together.
Nailed a lot. That was very, very good.
Thank you. With the extracurricular activity, because my dad was a pastor, and he worked a full-time job and also was a pastor and got paid basically minimum-ish wage. He didn't make enough off of being a pastor to feed the family entirely. Again, not dogging my dad in any way. He worked his ass off entirely, but he worked a full-time job that I have worked multiple times, and it sucks on its own. But on top of working that full-time job, he was a pastor with a very small church. He had a service on Sunday morning, Sunday night for if anybody else didn't show up or whatever. Then Monday night was kids club, Tuesday night was like youth group, Wednesday night was Bible study, and then maybe Thursday through Saturday, other stuff perhaps, but worked himself into the ground because that's what you do. You do as much extracurricular activity as possible. Not just that, but a lot of other churches definitely do have value in their extracurricular stuff, like building wells, reaching out to communities. Like my past church, I still shoot their camp for foster kids. That is extremely valuable. And so churches, even like all different denominations, have value that they put into the world. What is kind of the outreach or any of the expected extracurricular stuff that comes for somebody jumping into a Orthodox situation?
There's never any expected extracurricular. It's very much, I would say, the humility within Orthodoxy and the come and see approach. The negative side to that, if you want to see it this way, is that people go, well, why didn't I know about? It's like because we don't go knocking on people's doors.
Right.
We don't stand on a street corner with a megaphone. So it doesn't have a lot of that. One of the most beautiful things that really shook me in the best way is that during 2020, might have been 2021, but I think it was 2020. Anyway, one of those years, to compile on the fact that COVID's going on, Texas had a freeze, and we called it snowpocalypse, and it was like 100-year freeze, like the kind you never see here. And most cities around my area were just without power. It was houses were messed up. It was just a mess. It was beautiful the first few days when you're like, look, snow. And we're going out and taking pictures in the snow. And then you realize like, oh my God, these pipes are busting and people are losing power. People are dying. People don't have food. Every church in Lockhart was closed because for one, oh yeah, it was 2020. It was COVID. Except my church never closed during COVID because we still think that the liturgy is more important than what Governor Abbott sees as a rule to not spread the flu. And so the church stayed open. People still took communion with a shared spoon every week. And when that snowpocalypse happened, they opened their doors, gave people diapers, food, shower, fed people, let people sleep there. There was line around the block just to get help. And I was like, wow, interesting that they do what Christians are supposed to do when every other church was closed because government says to close, even during this stuff. So that sort of outreach I find beautiful. Another example I will say, during the Pascha service, which is our Easter, it goes from like 11 p.m. to 4 in the morning. The last hour and a half is a pure on party. Like the service is done and we're eating and drinking and vodka, wine, brisket. This kind of lady came in during that you could tell doesn't go to the parish, a step above homeless, I would say. And I sort of noticed her. There's a bunch of food, and I saw my priest walk over and sit with her. And he came back over to me. I was like, what's that lady doing? And he goes, she's just looking for food. She's hungry. And so I said, eat with us. And she didn't have a place to stay, so I gave her a voucher for a hotel. And so that sort of like organic, actually helping people is just, it just struck me like, wow, this is like the real Christianity. I'd never, like Joel Osteen during that snowpocalypse was criticized in Houston. His church is literally the old basketball stadium, the Rocket Stadium in Houston, arena.
Lockdown.
He didn't
shut him out.
Yeah. Shut him out. You can't come in here. And
as Jesus was known to do,
My poor little Rocor Orthodox Church membership, 50 people. We opened it up for everyone. That's not bragging or being prideful. It's more so showing like the true spirit of what's moving through that church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something to like, I don't know, the practice what you preach thing. Like, I'm not. I try to not be a cynical person anymore. I mean, I am, but I've been more cynical in the past. But especially on this stuff, like if somebody is attending a mega church or attending whatever church, I'm like, God bless you. You've got it figured out better than I do. If you're like, yes, I know the truth and this is the truth and that's what I'm going with. Good on you. I'm open to it. I'm open to you being right even, but it's hard for me to accept that anybody's got this all figured out. But yeah, I don't know, just something about all of it that I had a point to make, but it's gone now. Something about all of the, everything that didn't make sense in my searching. I'm like, there's things that check out, there's things that don't check out. Like, I'm not against God. I've had my experiences enough. I'm to the point where I'm like, I've had enough experiences, and I know not everybody has, but I've had enough experiences where I'm like, there's something beyond this. There's something beyond what I learned. There's something beyond me and my understanding even. And I just need it to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then that's not entirely on me. It's on whoever made the brain that didn't come to that conclusion. So it's a constant journey and searching for just wherever the greatest truth lies. I'm open to it. I don't care and have no whatever cult mentality at this point. What you're saying, I know you don't speak for all of Orthodoxy, but what you're saying makes the most sense from what I've heard from so many Christians for so many years on hard questions, and everybody insists that they know. And I just think, if you're right, and this is based on just the beginning, block out all the bullshit, take away all the brands, labels, and boxes, and political agendas, and everything else. This is just strip it all down. The thing that they who witnessed were like, well, it's true, and I can't deny it. Then if that's true, then I'm down. And if all it requires is me going and coming and seeing, I will come and see, and I will happily do so, and report back with further information. But Buck, I think this has been amazing. I did have some people who were texting me like, where's the live stream? I had some questions. We can get into them if you want, but we are already at 2 hours.
I'm good. I can answer or stay here. It's your show. If you want to cut it at 2, I'm fine with me. If you want to keep going, I can keep going.
Sure. We'll throw a couple in here. It's just 2 different people currently, but and they're not listening to the live stream, so they haven't watched all of this. But a friend of mine texted me, and he was like, hey, I've been asking the question as well. Like, what is this Orthodox thing? Is it just a trend? Is it just bullshit? Whatever. I want to know more about that. So hopefully people get some stuff out of this. But he asked, let's see. Let me see where the question actually starts, because he's texted me. My question would be, is there any basis in the Bible at all about praying to the saints? I probably despise that aspect of Orthodoxy the most, and we've kind of addressed that, but I also wanted to ask, like, what's you guys' take on Mary and that type of thing, because that's a controversial one from Catholicism, which seems to be closely tied in a lot of ways.
Our take on Mary, well, we love her. We call her the Theotokos, which means God bearer. And so, she's the second Eve, of course, Christ, the second Adam. We pray to Mary and ask for her prayers. So a modern way to analogize that is when you say, hey man, my brother's going through it. Will you pray for him to your friend or your pastor or whatever? That's what we're asking Mary to do. Hey, Holy Mother of God, please pray to your son that I need discernment. I'm going through this, that sort of thing. She can hear that. And same with the saints. We're not, you get a patron saint, I'm getting better at this. There's mine back there, Saint Seraphim of Sarav. Same sort of thing. I ask him to pray for me. I don't pray and say, Saint Seraphim, heal my broken leg or something. He can't do that. You can ask for the prayers of the saints as intercessors. And that's what that is. We don't worship them. We don't pray to them as their gods of any sort. We ask for their prayers.
Okay. So it's conversing. It's conversing with, if anybody's listening, please help, because any wisdom that you like, is it a definite thing? Like, we know that the saints have the ability, because they're saints, they have the ability to change things because of miracles that they performed, or also what classifies a saint in Orthodoxy?
That is above my pay grade. There's sort of this dogma, like I said, that's very strict and tight and a smaller grouping. And then there's outside of that where there's sort of different traditions and whatnot. I have been told I can call Father Seraphim Rose a saint because he is to me. He's not been canonized as a saint by the larger groupings of churches and whatnot. Except for in Georgia, the country, Georgia, he's been a saint there. Anyway, we do know from the Bible that saints, it's mentioned many times in there, I think even in the book of Revelation, that they are with Christ. And they have achieved, so when I was talking about theosis earlier, it's becoming like Christ. Obviously, no one can ever be Christ. So the more pure your heart and soul are along that road of theosis and trying to become more Christ-like, there have been men and women that are saints that have performed miracles, and people have witnessed that many times because Christ could perform miracles. So the more you become in that direction through ascetics, all things that are way better than I am. I will say this. I know a person, I'm going to be as vague as possible because this person would not want me to say this about him, even to him.
Sure.
But I know a man that I think is very holy, and I am very certain, because of personal experience and experience that others around me have had, that he has the blessing of clairvoyance. So I don't have that because I'm far from holy. But the closer you get towards this becoming like Christ and walking in these footsteps, it is possible to achieve certain spiritual gifts. And I'm certain he's got that. And because I'm like, how on earth did you see that or know that? Mm-hmm. It happened to multiple people. So there's very few of those among us now. Father Seraphim Rose had it to an extent. Many of the saints did. There's so many. There's story after story of the saints, of a man coming to him, about to ask him for a blessing or a prayer over something or other in his life. And the saint says, I'm praying for your brother, before it's even said to him. And it's like, how'd you know I was going to ask that? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Another question that I feel like both people who asked questions and who reached out would probably enjoy and appreciate your answer to this question. But the question is simply, what if I can't feel God? And I know there are both people who, similar to what I was saying earlier, like the sensationalism, like if you're not raising your hands and feeling the tingles and not whatever, then it feels like you're doing something wrong. Like you're not connecting with some thing that is expected of you. Is that the situation ever in Orthodoxy, or what would be your recommendation to people who just feel like they can't feel God?
That's a great question, and I have personal experience. My ex-wife, who I'm very close with, we split largely over this stuff because she was not about it. And
she was
lo and behold,
right?
she was just an atheist, and she's like, we came to this marriage as atheists, and now you're choosing God over me,
All
and
right.
this sort of thing. And it's like, well, we are very close now. Lo and behold, the last 4 months, she has been going to an Orthodox church and is a catechumen, and is diving into this because God has timing, and now it's her time.
Sure.
Her godmother, who I know, meaning like like I said, they help you. Like, I'm going to be a catechumen. Will you be my helper, if you will, my sponsor, my teacher, my godmother, and help walk me through this year or two long process of learning about the church? If I have questions, I come to you. She used to tell me, my ex-wife, I just don't feel it. I don't feel it when I'm in there. And I didn't know what to say at the time. She told me recently.
And this is Orthodox church that she wasn't feeling? Okay.
I didn't feel God. And she recently told me, I asked my godmother, like on our first initial meeting, I told her, I just had this problem when going with Buck back in the day. I just don't feel it. And she immediately stopped me and she goes, Orthodoxy is not a feeling. So get that out of your mind.
It's like love. It's not a feeling. It's a choice.
Because we also have a thing called prelist, which means spiritual delusion, which is what a lot of those people rolling on the floor have. And so it's like the second you start thinking like, oh, I feel this. Oh, how do you know that's God? How do you know that's not a demon whispering in your ear?
Or like bad cheese or something that's making you feel a certain way, or tricking chemicals in your brain. So yeah, to that note, I do like the idea of the regimen and the rituals and the structure of like, you don't have to feel it. Come do it, and come fast and keep doing that, and come and see. Keep trying it. Keep finding out how it benefits your life or doesn't benefit your life, and reassess from there. But try it and see.
Saints, and again, Seraphim Rose is not technically considered a saint, but I absolutely know, looking back, for Cyprian Van Armani to go read this book by Father Seraphim Rose, and for that to like blow my mind, because I've never heard anyone speak like this. And he was a modern man, so he understood like the hippie culture and Eastern mysticism. I'm reading it, my mind's blown. My godfather, who Seraphim Rose is his family's patron saint, gets this urge at that time to reach out to me, and had no clue I had read Father Seraphim, and Father Seraphim's in our church. So I have zero doubt. And like I told Cyprian one time, you helped me get into the church. And he goes, no, that was Father Seraphim Rose. He spoke to me, and I thought I should tell Buck about this book. I get the book. Someone reaches out. It was too many coincidences. At some point, you can't be like, or I couldn't.
Breadcrumbs.
Be like,
I call them breadcrumbs.
Just a weird
things
coincidence.
Just left along your trail in your path that are like, hey, try it. And you're like, no, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. And then you try it and you're like, wait, hold on. Breadcrumbs. Yes. You just keep going. And I don't know. I think that there's something to that. But we've gone a long while now. And we should probably wrap it up mostly because anything over 2 hours, nobody's going to listen to from people that aren't Dave Smith versus Nick Fuentes at this point. But and I want them to listen to this. I want them to take something away from this, because this has been helpful for me. Like, this is just me coming in with my uncynical but skeptical stance that has experiences and hurts and all the shit from churches and whatnot. I'm not mad. I just know that everybody is trying to figure this shit out, and I feel like people have been trying to figure it out for centuries. And if there's any lineage of people that have the best like stacking of, we think this is right and we think this is right, and then keeping it consistent, if that is what this is, then I'm certainly the most interested, because that makes the most sense. And my arguments and issues with churches splitting and over like revelation scripture, or just like simple stuff like once saved always saved, or not once saved always saved, it's like, but you guys agree on almost everything other than that one thing, and that's entirely it's completely moot what you think is true. All that matters is what is true. Like, you can divide from your brother because you think that you have it figured out and he thinks he has it figured out. But all that matters at the end of the day is what actually is. And I think that I like this approach. It seems like the church of what a Christ figure would start. It seems like what he was more about was loving people and living, and not like knocking on doors and saying, hey, you need to do this or you're going to go to hell. But it was loving people, inviting them into his home and conversing with them, having fellowship with them, and giving a new way that completely superseded and transcended any law. And I can ramble for a while because I'm a few drinks in. Maybe I need to go find a priest to talk to about that. But Buck, this has been an absolute pleasure, and I would love to do more of it. But go ahead and give any final thoughts and where people can find you, and we can kick out of here for now.
Father Turbo, my spiritual father. If you can find him on any of his stuff on YouTube, Google Father, or YouTube search Father Turbo Qualls. If you're having questions or curious about the Orthodox Church, I would absolutely do that. And he always says, seek truth, for real, seek truth, and you will find Christ, and then that will lead you to the Orthodox Church, the church that Christ started. Christ said, I am the truth. The truth is a person, not a thing. And so on that, thank you, Dan, for having me on. Counterflow with Buck Johnson is the podcast. Follow me on X. If you can see me tweet some things I sometimes regret, at Buck Rebel, BuckRebel. And part of the Dissident Media family. And love it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Buck, thank you so much for being here again. I imagine we will talk more in the future as my own progression into madness unfolds. I like everything that you're pushing here. I encourage other people to explore truth and find it wherever it may be, and whatever, not necessarily whatever rings true is true, but look for the thing that rings the most true, and just ask people who have been looking into it more than you, because that's all we're doing here. Buck, thank you so much for looking into it. Thank you for giving me some knowledge, and everybody else, and hopefully, we all find truth together. But until next time, everyone, thank you for being here. Question everything, stay comfortable. Sorry it wasn't a live stream, but be bad and have fun. We'll talk to you next time. See you.
Thanks for watching. Smash all the like and subscribe buttons, because that's what we say at the end of videos. Good night, everybody.
This concludes our broadcast day.
This has been a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net